Life Study of Matthew, Message 57, continuation. Therefore, Christ is a stone to three categories of people. For the believers, he is the building stone. For the rejecting Jews, he is the stumbling stone. And for the Gentiles, he is the smiting stone. If you believe in him, he will be to you the building stone. If you are a Jew and reject him and are stumbled by him, you will be experience him as the stumbling stone and be broken to pieces. If you are an unbelieving Gentile fighting against God, you will know him one day as the smiting stone, for he will smite you and scatter you like chaff driven by the wind. As a believer, Christ to you is a building stone, but how much building have you actually experienced? Although we are believers and although Christ is the building stone, we may not have very much building. Some genuine believers have even stumbled at Christ. On the one hand, they believe in Christ, but on the other hand, they say that they cannot take the way of Christ and they shake their head at him. In other words, they were stumbled at him. Thus, instead of being built up by Christ, they have been stumbled by him. Furthermore, some true believers have been smitten by Christ and blown away like chaff. It is rare to find genuine believers who are truly being built together. Such a building cannot be found in today's Christianity. If you look for it in Catholicism, you will find abominations and fornication instead of building. Neither can the building be found in the denominations. On the contrary, today's Christianity is full of stumbling and breaking. Yes, many have been brought to the Lord in Catholicism and in denomination, but after they were brought to the Lord, they were spoiled. Instead of being built, they were stumbled or smitten. We need to examine ourselves and ask how much of the building there is among us. Matthew was the only one among the four writers of the Gospels to give us a clear record of Christ as the stone. His record is complete. In no other portion of the Bible can we find Christ presented as a stone in three aspects: the building stone, the stumbling stone, and the smiting stone. All three aspects are found in Matthew for the kingdom. The church is the life pulse of the kingdom. This means that just as the body dies when the pulse stops, so the kingdom is wholly dependent upon the church. The church in turn is completely dependent upon the building. If there's no building, there's no practical church life. The church life is not simply a matter of meeting together or having a little fellowship. In whatever locality we are, we need to be built. For this, we must enjoy and experience our Christ as the stone. He is not only the foundation stone that bears us up, but also the cornerstone that joins us together. In him and through him we are built together. Apart from such a building, the church is vain, and without the church, the kingdom has no life. The church is the kingdom life, and the reality of the church is the building. How we need to experience Christ as the building stone. He is the building element, the building life. Christ is life to us not only for victory, but all the more for building. The inner life people have spoken a great deal about Christ as the victorious life, but I never heard any one of them give a message saying that Christ is the building life. He is not only the victorious life, but also the building life. If you simply experience victory through Christ as life, your experience is not yet adequate. We must go on to experience the building life of Christ. Ultimately, Christ's life within us is for God's building. You may be victorious, but still not be built. We need to be built. When we are built, we shall have the reality of the church life, and the church will be the life pulse of the kingdom. Then the kingdom will be here in actuality. To repeat, the actuality of the kingdom is the church, and the reality of the church is the building. In other words, the kingdom depends upon the church, and the church depends upon the building. We need to consider to what extent we have experienced Christ as the building stone. I believe that in the days to come, the Lord will show us much more concerning the building. This building is closely related to the new man. On the one hand, the new man has been created, but on the other hand, the new man is being built. In order to have this new man, we need to experience Christ as the building stone. The Jewish leaders seeking to seize the heavenly king. After such a marvelous revelation, the Jewish leaders sought to seize the heavenly king that they might kill him. This indicated that they, as the builders, fully rejected Christ as God's building stone. Life Study of Matthew, Message 58. The Heavenly King being tested. In this message, we come to chapter 22, verse 1 to 14, the parable of the marriage feast. This parable is the continuation of the Lord's answer to the chief priests and elders of the people. In his answer to their question regarding his authority, he spoke three parables: the parable of the shifting of the birthright, the parable of the vineyard, and the parable of the marriage feast. The parable of the shifting of the birthright reveals that the birthright, which had belonged to the nation of Israel, had been taken away and given to the church. The parable of the vineyard indicates that the kingdom of God was about to be taken away from Israel and given to the church. Thus, these two parables are parallel to each other. If you do not have the birthright, you cannot participate in the kingdom. By this, we see that the birthright and the kingdom go together. These first two parables refer to Israel on the negative side, for both the birthright and the kingdom were taken away from Israel. If the Lord's answer had stopped here, it would have been incomplete. It would have dealt only with the negative side and had no positive issue. As we come to the end of chapter 21, we have the realization that there must be something more. Therefore, after the first two parables, the Lord added the parable of the marriage feast as the completion of his answer. In giving this parable, he turned from the negative side to the positive side. The parable of the marriage feast, a king making a marriage feast for his son. Matthew chapter 22 verse 2 says, "The kingdom of the heavens was likened to a man, a king, who made a marriage feast for his son." The parable of the vineyard in chapter 21 refers to the Old Testament, in which there was the kingdom of God, whereas the parable of the marriage feast in this chapter refers to the New Testament, in which there is the kingdom of the heavens. The king here is God, and the son is Christ. In the foregoing parable, the Lord illustrated how the Jews would be punished and how the kingdom of God would be taken from them and given to the kingdom people. Another parable is needed for him to illustrate how the kingdom people in the kingdom of the heavens will be strictly dealt with. Both parables indicate that the kingdom is a serious matter. In the foregoing parable, the Old Testament was likened to a vineyard, with the focus mainly on the matter of labor under the law. In this parable, the New Testament is likened to a marriage feast, with the focus mainly on the matter of enjoyment under grace. The vineyard is not mainly for enjoyment, but for labor. But in the marriage feast, there is no labor. Instead, there is full enjoyment. No one attends a marriage feast for the purpose of laboring. All attend for enjoyment. Thus, the parable of the vineyard depicts labor under the law, and the parable of the marriage feast depicts enjoyment under grace. We in the Lord's recovery are not laboring under law, but are enjoying under grace. What a contrast between these two parables. Today we are not under law, but under grace. We are not laboring, but enjoying. This is the basic principle in understanding these parables. The king sending his slaves again and again to call those invited to the marriage feast. Verse 3 says, "And he sent his slaves to call those who were invited to the marriage feast, and they would not come." The slaves mentioned in this verse are the first group of the New Testament apostles. Verse 4 continues, "Again he sent other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who were invited, Behold, I have prepared my dinner, my oxen and my fatted beasts are killed, and all things are ready. Come to the marriage feast.'" The slaves here are the apostles sent later by the Lord. This verse speaks of oxen and fatted beasts, both of which refer to Christ as the one killed, that God's chosen people might enjoy him as a feast. Christ has many aspects for our enjoyment. As the oxen and the fatted beasts, he had been killed and prepared for our enjoyment. Although everything had been prepared, and although the slaves went out again and again, the people refused to come, even laying hold of the slaves, treating them shamefully, and killing them.